Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from Not the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, yeah, things have been a little crazy lately with spoiler season and also just with life in general. And yeah, that's why I'm recording from Not the Commander Score Studio. I'll be back there hopefully tomorrow. In spoiler season, I think yesterday might have been the first time I've missed a spoiler season day in a very long time, at least for the kickoff. I've missed some weekends before, but I don't really count those too much. But yeah, basically, yesterday I did get a recording done. I was not able to edit it in time. So right now I'm recording an episode on the cards that I've missed since then. Again, life's a bit crazy right now, so I'm trying to make do the best I can. So I'm going to talk about some cards that came out well overnight and a little bit yesterday as well. And then I'll probably try to edit the other episode that I did yesterday and put that one out later. That's got kind of the initial cards from that initial stream, or at least some of them, many of them. I'm not sure. Anyways, things are crazy. Let's jump into the cards. So first up, we've got Virtue of Knowledge. A crazy card. Here we go. An enchantment for 4 in a blue. It has an adventure on it, Vantress Visions for 1 in a blue. Copy target activated or triggered ability to control. Choose targets for the copy. That is a huge effect that comes along with an even bigger effect. If a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers initial time. Okay, so first up, correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong on this, because I think I was wrong last time I talked about adventures. But we have seen adventures on, or an adventure on an artifact before, I believe. It has been said. Yes, that's from Baldur's Gate, I believe. But I don't think we've seen one on an enchantment. So please correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong on that. But if that's the case, there you go. An adventure on an enchantment, which that's, I guess, the least surprising out of all the different ones. Some people out there were speculating land when Mara put those teasers out. That would be pretty crazy. I guess that'd be like an MDFC kind of essentially, but yeah, pretty crazy. First up, that adventure can be quite powerful, especially for decks that really care about activating triggered abilities. And yes, this is basically just another copy of Panharmonicon with that on top of it. I mean, I guess Panharmonicon has more restrictions. I think it's artifacts and just creatures. This one is any permanent. So kind of like, again, Yarok, or I guess the new Elesh Norn, essentially. I guess newish. There's so many cards coming out. It's kind of crazy. But yes, so being able to, again, double up all your ETBs. There's plenty of decks out there that love ETBs. You got Blink decks. You've got just ETB focused decks. You've got, again, Yarok, who's going to love putting this in the deck as well. Yeah, a fantastically powerful card. It does cost 1 more than Panharmonicon, sure, but you also get that, additional flexibility of it having adventure. And when it comes to destroying artifacts or enchantments and dealing with them, I would say that enchantments are slightly harder to deal with in most circumstances. Or I'd say players run more artifact removal typically, because some, I guess like Vandal Blast, that kind of stuff is more. Let's move on. Anyway, so moving on, we've got Spectre of Mortality. There's a lot of cards to get through. A 3/3 Flying Spectre for 3 black. Enters the battlefield and may exile 1 or more creature cards from your graveyard. When you do, each other creature gets my second until turn, X the number of cards exiled this way. So kind of a flexible board wipe on a flyer. That's obviously not bad at all. Again, if you have a self-mill deck, this is one that can definitely take advantage of that. You probably don't want to utilize this in other kinds of decks that, might really care about the graveyard, like obviously Reanimator. It's going to have tons of creatures in the graveyard. You probably don't want to get rid of them in this way. That being said, again, a flexible board wipe can be a good thing. And again, because this is on ETB, it can be very easily used and abused in most circumstances. And again, you can get, I guess if it survives the initial one, but yeah, you can get this effect multiple times, or also reanimating it could do that as well. So yeah, keep that in mind. Moving on. Agatha's Soul Cauldron, a very interesting one, a legendary artifact for 2. You may spend mana as Lord mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures you control. Creatures you control with +1 counters on them have all activities of all creature cards exiled with it. Tap exile target card from a graveyard. When a creature is exiled this way, put a +1 counter target creature you control. So keep in mind, that can be any creature from any graveyard, not just your own, which is huge. So you kind of can like steal abilities essentially. You can steal activated abilities, which is pretty fantastic. So, and again, like all those creatures that have counters on them get all those abilities. So this is a pretty powerful card. And I mean, one that at a very baseline effect, essentially, just think of like exiling a mana dork from either your graveyard or someone's graveyard, okay? And if you're in a +1 counters build and just easily getting like a Loyal Guardian out in play, you can very easily get a counter on every single creature you control. Cool. All of a sudden, every single one of your creatures now is a mana dork as well. So like a Cryptolith right type effect. Or, yeah, a lot of other effects. I mean, think about, something that can tap to destroy things like, Avatar of Woe is an example, potentially. Like being able to just say, okay, that's in a graveyard, cool. Or, in your own graveyard, you can find ways to, you can entomb creatures in your own graveyard, right? Do that, all your creatures all of a sudden can just tap destroy a creature. Or Arcanist Omnipotent, tap, draw 3 cards. Or, of course, yeah, just very easy combos. There's plenty of, 2 creature combos out there that have activated abilities. And, yeah, you can very easily now just say, oh, okay, tap on tap, do all these things infinite mana. I'm sure. There's just a lot of potential for this card. So, again, combo potential, really good +1 counter builds. And, yeah, just a really, really crazy card. Moving on. Blossoming Tortoise, a 3/3 turtle for 2 green. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, mill 3 cards, return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Activate abilities of land you control cost +1 to activate creatures. Land creature you control +1/+1. So this one does have an ETB that you can use and abuse depending on the deck that you are in. If you are just in green, it's going to be a bit harder because, well, you don't have too many blink effects. But if you are in a blink deck or in a, if you have a lot of feign death type effects, I should say, or reanimator effects, you can really utilize this. Yes, there's an attack trigger on it. It's only a 3/3. That being said, if you have basically, ways to protect it in combat, ways to get through in combat, ways to pump it, which you're in green, you have plenty of ways to pump it. Yeah, you can definitely protect it in combat and get this effect well, more than once, essentially. I guess you're getting it twice already with the ETB and the attack. That being said, a very good way to ramp, and keep in mind, it does say land from your graveyard, not land out of those cards. So it's not you have to hit one off the top 3. No, you can just keep milling more and more and more, getting more things in your graveyard. Or if you just have a single evolving wilds, there you go. Just get it back into play, crack it again, back to your graveyard, attack, get it back into play, do it again and again and again. So yeah, make sure you keep that in mind. And obviously, reducing activated abilities of lands can be a good thing depending on what lands you have. Moving on, Beseech the Mirror. Here's one that is spicy. Very, very spicy. Source for 1 black. Bargain, which means that you can sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token as you cast it, and if you do, you're going to get an additional effect. Search your library for a card, exile it face down, then shuffle. If this spell was bargain, you may cast the exile card without paying its mana cost, but that spell's mana value is 4 or less. Put the exile card in your hand if it wasn't cast this way. Okay, so basically, again, one of the most popular cards in Commander, well, okay, you got Demonic Tutor, right, but that's more expensive and not within my budget, but Diabolic Tutor, right, costs 4. It goes in tutors for any card, gets it right in your hand. It's incredible, right? This one essentially has a more restrictive casting cost, right? It's going to be harder to fit in, every deck out there that Diabolic Tutor is, all right? That being said, it has the potential to, yes, just be a Diabolic Tutor. Go get a card out of your library, basically get it in your hand. I mean, it gets exile face down first, then put in your hand. That being said, if you can sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or a token, even something as simple as a treasure or a clue or a creature token, cool. Do that, and all of a sudden, now you get to cast a card for free. You get to cast that card for free, I guess I should say, if it's got a converted mana cost of 4 or less. This, I think, has some combo potential because, again, you can just, there's plenty of combo cards out there that, cost 4 or less, and all of a sudden you can just say, oh, okay, I'll automatically tutor for that, I'll automatically cast that, and yeah, at that point, sure, just sacrifice a mana rock or whatever to try to win the game then and there. This has a lot of potential. It's a fantastic tutor. Oh, gross. And I'm going to be very scared when someone plays it against me. Moving on. Lich Knight's Conquest. A sorcerer for 4 in a black. Sacrifice any number of artifacts, enchantments, and/or tokens. Return that many creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Yeah, that's a pretty good reanimation effect. Now, that being said, it has to be for the right build, depending on, well, again, if you have enchantments, if you have artifacts, if you have ways to make tokens, if you don't have those, you're not going to be able to utilize this very effectively. That being said, again, there is a lot of things that make treasures these days, a lot of things that make clues, food, creature tokens, of course. So yeah, if you have those, I mean, this is a pretty incredible effect to just really take advantage of this and say, yeah, I'll sacrifice 5, human creature tokens. Oh, cool, I'll get the 5 biggest creatures out of my graveyard into play. So yeah, that can be a massive effect. It's kind of like Living Death-ish, but individualized kind of, and also again more specific. But yeah, okay, a little bit like Living Death. Let's just go with that. Moving on, the Huntsman's Redemption. Costing 3 mana, 2 and a green, a saga. The first lore counter is you get a 3/3 beast. A second one is sacrifice a creature. You may sacrifice a creature today. If you do, search life for a creature or basic land, reveal it in your hand, then shuffle. The third one is up to 2 target creature gets +2 and gain trample on a turn. Interesting. So basically, the 3/3, that's nice. Hey, you get a 3/3. Work with it. Great, cool. Or you can just sacrifice it next turn. So basically, okay, I got a 3/3. Cool. I'll sacrifice it. I'll go tutor for, I would hope a creature. If you are tutoring for a basic land, you are desperate that you need a land drop essentially, which might happen. It's good to have that flexibility. But yeah, you probably should be tutoring for one of your best creatures, essentially. And yeah, there's kind of just like a 3-mana tutor in some ways that has some additional effects to it. And yeah, that pump effect could be quite nice as well. Moving on, let's get into some commanders. I believe I've got only commanders from now on. We shall see. Gilwain, Casting Director, and I should mention that I have not really looked over every single one of these cards ahead of time, so I'm kind of doing some of this on the fly. You're going to get my, well, just kind of, raw, take on these commanders. A 2/3 Human Bard for 1 green and a white. Whenever Gilwain or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under control, choose 1, create a royal roll token attached to that creature, create a sorcerer roll attached to that creature, create a monster roll attached to that creature. And I should have double checked as to which each one of those are again. But basically the rolls are like enchantment auras that you're putting on creatures. And obviously these are going to have different effects. I need to double check what those are. Comment below and let me know how wrong I am to not have looked that up ahead of time. Again, I probably should have just really quick scanned these, but again, life's kind of crazy right now and I'm doing the best I can. So yeah, interesting though, again, whenever it or another non-token creature's battlefield under control, you get one of those effects. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of blink effects, obviously, in these colors. There's plenty of ways to get a lot of creatures out. Again, it is non-token, so keep that in mind. That being said, plenty of ways to use and abuse that. Plenty of ways to take advantage of it. Again, like a Blossoming Dryad that, draws you a card whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control. Yeah, you're going to have a lot of those happen. So make sure you're getting a lot of cards drawn from that. Other constellation benefits as well. And just, ways to take advantage of the number of enchantments in play, too. Next up, Alela Cunning Conqueror, a 2/4 fairy warlock with flying that costs 2 blue and a black. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, create a 1/1 black fairy rogue creature token with flying. Whenever one or more fairies you control deal combat to a player, goad target creature that player controls. Goad, yeah, I absolutely love Goad, first of all. It leads to some really interesting play. And this one says, you know what, hey, let's start casting some spells during opponent's turns. Let's cast instant spells. So you can basically just utilize, some really cool combat effects as well, obviously, which you're already going to be doing with Goad. You can just bounce things. You can say, like, okay, I goaded your creature. Okay, well, I want to get that through. Cool, it's bouncing opponent's creature or whatnot. You can use, cantrips. You can use draw effects on opponent's turns as well to create that fairy army. And, of course, yeah, you can really take advantage of that combat damage trigger to goad your opponent's creatures. You can utilize, Maskwood Nexus, essentially, stuff like that to say, everything's a fairy that I have. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, I like the design. I think that, unfortunately, you don't get access to certain things. Like, you're not in reds, you don't get extra combat. You're not in red or white, so you don't get double strike to take advantage of that as well with the combat damage trigger. And you don't really have too many token doublers out there as well in these colors. So, yeah, it's a commander that could probably benefit from other colors, but it's still a very powerful one. Moving on, we've got Elevair of the Wild Court. Let's go with that. A 4/4 Human Knight for 2 green white, so another Selesnya commander. Enters the battlefield or attacks, create a virtuous roll token attached to another target creature you control. Control another roll. This one is enchant creature gets +1 for each enchantment you control, so that can be a giant pump effect. Whenever enchantment creature you control deals combat to a player, draw a card. So enchantment creature tribal, that can be a really fun build. You're probably gonna get some more enchantment creatures, I would assume, in this set. And, it says enchanted creatures, sorry, not enchantment creatures, so less specific than that, that's good. But basically, again, being able to utilize those rolls, being able to utilize auras, yeah, you have a lot of potential to draw a lot of cards with a commander like this. And again, you are in white, so you can take advantage of double strike, even something as simple as a Duelist Heritage. Cool, creature gets double strike, hits twice, draw 2 cards. Or that one, something Conviction, where you have, double strike and lifelink. Cool, you gain some life, but also you get to actually get, double strike on opponents with all your creatures that are getting through, and you're drawing 2 cards per creature instead of 1. Moving on. Hilda? Whatever. Of the Icy Crown, a 3/4 Human Warlock for 2 white blue. Whenever you tap an untapped creature and opponent controls, you may pay 1. When you do, choose 1. Create a 4/4 Elemental. Put a +1 counter on each creature you control. Scry to then draw a card. Opposition. That's all I've got to say. Opposition. That is definitely a card that I believe is that one expensive or that one get reprinted? I think that one got reprinted a little while ago, and it's actually budget friendly now. I could be wrong. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. But that one's basically an enchantment that, hey, tap an untapped creature you control, tap, I think it's a land, a creature, an artifact, essentially, an opponent controls, please, or anyone controls. Please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. But hey, yeah, so all you need to do is say, okay, cool, I've got 1 creature in play, this one. Tap an untapped creature opponent controls. I guess first you need to actually tap an untapped creature opponent controls. Cool, so do that. Again, Verity Circle type effects, Verity Circle type of benefits. Tap an untapped creature, pay 1. Cool, you make a 4/4. Opposition. I guess I just went back through for that. As long as you have opposition in play, you tap your creature, you tap their creature, you pay 1, you make another creature, which you can then tap right away because it's not giving it to the creature. It's actually the effect that's on the enchantment. Tap that. Just keep basically, you can keep paying 1 again and again and again to make an army of 4/4s and tap down your opponent's creatures for as much mana as you have. You can also scry and draw if you want to do that. You can also get counters on creatures. There's a lot of crazy things that you can do. The opposition. Use it. Moving on. Tegwyl, Duke of Splendor, a 2/3 fairy noble with flying and death touch that costs 1 blue/black. Other fairies you control get +1/+1. Another fairy you control dies, draw a card and lose 1 life. Interesting. Cool. Yeah, fairy tribal. You're getting a couple options now. Obviously, other fairy tribal commanders work well with this one in the 99-bit deck or in their decks. And yeah, just a good pump effect for their fairies, a low-to-the-ground commander, and also a way to benefit when your fairies die. Notice it does not say non-token. So yeah, Bitter Blossom, obviously, if you have the budget for it, is going to be fantastic in a deck like this. I mean, you're losing life faster, but you got ways to gain life, right? Moving on, we got the Goose Mother. That's weird. A 2/2 bird hydra with flying that costs X, green and a blue. Enters the battlefield, X counters on it. The Goose Mother enters the battlefield. When the Goose Mother enters the battlefield, create half X food tokens rounded up. When the Goose Mother attacks, you may sacrifice a food. If you do, draw a card. Okay, I mean, so it's a Hydra type effect. Essentially, you can make a pretty big creature with this, make a decent amount of food with it. Again, if you put, say, 6 mana in that X, you're getting a 6, or you're getting a 8/8, right? It's got to do the power already. And then also you get, 3 food tokens, and then you get to draw 3 cards, I guess, on, 3 separate attacks. Interesting. I mean, not the most powerful thing in the world, probably good in limited, standard, whatever. But yeah, in Commander, I mean, there's definitely Hydra decks out there, X counter decks out there. X-Spell decks out there that are going to really care about this one and think it's pretty cool. Also, food decks can obviously consider it too. Moving on, Sir Ginger the Meal Ender. I think I did an episode quite a while back when actually the image of this one was spoiled and kind of my thoughts on what the actual card would be, and I don't think I was close. A 3/1 food knight for 2 has trample, hexproof, and haste as long as the opponent controls a planeswalker, so that's interesting. Whenever another artifact you control spin a grave from the battlefield, you get a counter on this and scry 1, pay 2, tap, sacrifice, you gain life equal to its power. So basically starting off as a food when it comes to the amount of life gain at 3, but obviously if you get more counters on this, again, whenever an artifact you control spin a grave from the battlefield, you get a counter on this, you scry 1. Does not specify non-token artifact, so obviously that counts, food, it counts essentially, treasures, it counts any kind of artifact out there. And yeah, this can get quite large and it can be quite deadly if an opponent has a planeswalker. Now, when it comes to Commander, it really depends on your play group, I think, on how many planeswalkers actually really see play. In other formats, yeah, planeswalkers probably see a little more play, but in Commander, it just depends on the play group. It depends on if you have a friend that has, a Super Friends deck, or a friend that likes planeswalkers and includes them in a lot of decks. So my play group, I'd say you're probably not going to get that most of the time, but in others, yeah, you might. Moving on, we've got a Ariat of the Charmed Apple, a 2/4 human warlock for 1 white/black. So an Orzhov, each creature that's enchanted by an aura you control can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life for X number of auras you control. That's pretty funny. Basically, this commander is like, hey, pacifism for everything. I mean, not pacifism, I guess they can still block, but they can't attack you. So essentially just utilizing all these auras, you can do a lot of low to the ground auras that are effective, that are cheap, and essentially say, all these creatures now cannot attack me. Now they're not like goated or anything like that, but essentially like, oh yeah, I just have like a giant ghostly prison around me that cannot be paid for. And also the bigger my ghostly prison gets, the more of those enchantments I get into play, the more you each are drained by this. And of course, there's ways to take advantage of life loss for opponents and ways to take advantage of life gain for you. So yeah, this one is pretty spicy, and I could think of a lot of really cool builds that you could use around it. Of course, there's also ways to take advantage of when those creatures might get dealt with. Okay, maybe a wrath happens, all those enchantments are in your graveyard. Cool. Use something like, I guess Replenish comes to mind, but that one's expensive, really expensive. But any way to bring enchantments back out of your graveyard, bring them all back, put them on new creatures essentially, and then maybe take advantage again constellation things. So have fun with that. Moving on, Agatha of the Vile Cauldron, a 1/1 human warlock for red-green, so very low to the ground commander. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost X less to activate, where X is Agatha of the Vile Cauldron's power. The fact can't reduce the mana, and that costs less than 1 mana. Wizards, I mean, yeah, that's probably right, because you could do so many infinite crazy things if you did reduce less than 1 mana. You really like to put that in there, and that's probably a good idea. For red, green, other creature control get +1, gain triple, and haste till out of turn. Yeah, keep in mind that obviously Agatha affects its own ability, so there you go. Essentially, the more powerful Agatha becomes, and it's very easy. Again, like a simple Blackblade or Forge, you're in green, you have plenty of ways to get lands into play. You could just pump this power to a point where all your creatures' activity abilities cost minuscule amounts, basically nothing. And there's plenty of powerful ones that you can really take advantage with this, especially when you have the reduction. Yes, you have to pay at least 1 for your activated abilities, but still, there's some crazy things that you can do with something like this. And is that the last one? That is the last one. There we go. Again, thank you for bearing with me at this time. Again, life is just a little crazy right now, but hopefully there's a sense of normalcy here. I think, again, starting tomorrow, I should be back in the studio. So, yeah, we shall see. Regardless, a lot of really exciting spoilers. Thank you for, again, bearing with me. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Comment below with your thoughts on all of these. And, of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one.
This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.